Starground released on Steam Early Access on August 19, 2024. It's developed by three-person indie dev team Big Boy Games and published by Two Left Thumbs. It's described as a top-down automation dungeon crawler, which notably features online co-op, so you can dive into the dungeons or build an automated base with friends. Its theme is clear in its title, which I love: space and mining. When you throw in automation and dungeon crawling, well, this game seems like it's right up my alley. It wears the label of roguelite in some of its promotional materials too. This game is blending a lot of different genre mechanics together. But this is a creative blend and a mashup that I haven't quite seen before. Think Forager meets Factorio meets Binding of Isaac. The early access launch saw some improvements come to the game, such as full controller support, which I think will help to bring this title to a larger audience. It might even find a great home on the Steam Deck. You can tell it's still being built and improved, which is what early access is all about. So what's the game itself all about? Let's dive in. At your overworld base is where you'll gather materials and build out an automated factory. You're equipped with a mining laser, which lives on slot 1 of your toolbar. Trees and coal and metal ores are scattered across the overworld for you to collect, randomly spawning and despawning. 10 stone will build you a furnace where you can smelt the iron and copper that you found. You can automate these with chests and conveyor belts, which you'll want to do as soon as possible to progress faster. I'd love to see some UI added to the outside of processing machines like in Factorio, for players like me who are a little slow to automate and want to see their progress of material processing projects at a glance. One of the first buildings you'll access after the furnace is a crafter, which is where you'll make intermediate materials like gears and wire to build other structures. It can be powered initially by running on a treadmill. You'll want to build a Tesla coil as well, which will transmit the power from the treadmill to your power grid, and some batteries to store excess power for later use. It seems like there's no way to pick up a battery and have it keep its charge, so be careful when destroying them. Building a collector will allow your first step towards automation. Provide it with power and you'll have a swarm of bees at your beck and call to collect resources for you. I'm no beekeeper, but sometimes it seems like my bees weren't doing anything or were nowhere to be found. They might have run out of resources or were just sleeping in the current part of the day-night cycle. I think the circle on the upper left corner of the UI might be an indication of the time of day, but you can also tell it's nighttime when the flashlight on your mining laser turns on. You can also toggle it off and on with the F key. As you progress, you'll unlock a burner and the ability to craft biomass at the crafter for more efficient power generation. The Satisfactory player in me kind of wishes there was a sound effect when your base ran out of power, so I could pause my deforestation adventures and go refuel my burner. More specific stats about power generation and fuel burn times would be nice as well, and shift-clicking my biomass to swap it out for the wood would also be a very handy addition. A main form of progression in the game is working through the research menu. Choose your research project, then burn the required resources at a researcher building. I like this idea. It's also a bit reminiscent of Factorio. Your research stays in the R menu though. It might be interesting to see it incorporated into the researcher building's UI in some way, rather than being totally separate. It would be nice to see the materials you're currently required to burn in order to progress straight from there. While we're on the subject, I'd love to be able to actually see the name of the materials required in the research menu. And I think some ability to pin research projects to the UI to track them would really help player progression. Pinning research projects and even building recipes could give clarity to the player on a goal to work toward. Placing the objective out in front and keeping it visible at all times prevents players getting lost in the grind of games like these. There's some pushback in modern day about this kind of hand-holding game design, but I think it's just good user experience. When you crawl into the randomly generated dungeons, the soundtrack's vibe changes from the chill base building vibe to something a bit more appropriate for the threats you'll face. Watch out for floor spikes and be prepared for ranged attacking mushrooms and aggressive robots who are waiting to test your combat skills. Your weapon has a cooldown which is shown visually on your hotbar, but upgrading to the sword will let you do a few rapid attacks in quick succession before you're effectively out of stamina. Hopefully they add some clarification about this in the UI. I found combat initially a bit difficult with the long cooldowns. You can make good money in the mines from collecting the coins these enemies drop, which can be exchanged at the space hub. I found myself wishing I had a map while I was playing this game to prevent getting lost in the overworld while collecting materials, as well as helping me find my way in these dungeons. Even a way to zoom out or an arrow pointing you back to base would be nice. Although I'm not sure there's a way to leave the dungeons once you dive down, which makes losing a bit of your inventory on death feel a bit more punishing, but it's true to form for a roguelite, which is one of the many genres that have influenced Starground. It would be cool to see more materials drop in the dungeons as well, not just mostly coins and food, which might make losing your inventory at the end of a run more interesting. It's smart to drop all your important loot into a chest at your base before you start a dungeon run. I'm not sure if valuable crafting ingredients are safe from this mechanic. Bring back your looted coins from the dungeon to the space hub, which was added in version 7, and you'll meet a snail with whom you can barter for materials to bring back to base to help you along with your progression there. And another NPC who offers weapon parts to make your next run a bit more successful. And of course, a vending machine for a food restock, so you're not left hoping for the best and surviving on whatever recovery hearts or looted snacks you can find below the surface. Or you can just throw your hard-earned coin into the fountain, but it's unclear whether this action has any advantage for the player. When you get back to base, after looting or buying some weapon parts, you can upgrade your weapon at a tool bench. You put the weapon pieces in and the tool stays on your hotbar. It wasn't clear to me immediately what the recipes were for weapons, but maybe the players meant to experiment with different part combinations. Also a note about the hotbar, slot 2 on your toolbar will hold your weapon, which can be assembled piece by piece at your tool bench. This slot, along with your first slot, where the mining laser lives, are locked and function more as predefined core skills than access to items. As I played this game, I had some moments where I wished that I could do something that I couldn't. The opposite experience of being pleasantly surprised that a mechanic is present can be a highlight of any play session when trying a new game. But it's important to bear in mind that this game was built by such a small team in a short time. That being said, I think it's also important to point out that it has some opportunity for quality of life improvements that could take it to the next level. A more robust knowledge base or tutorial in the game with some information on how the mechanics work and are intended to be used would be really cool. I found myself making my way through the crafting and research trees, or leaning mostly on my knowledge of how other games like Factorio worked in order to progress. Some might praise this game for not holding your hand too much, aside from the small amount of tutorial that it does include. But as a somewhat casual gamer, I like a little hand-holding. Can you blame me? I'd love to see quality of life additions like picking up items off conveyor belts without destroying them, or using a pipette tool to copy buildings as well. Or bug fixes like the research UI displaying the R key even though I rebound it to the Q key so as not to conflict with the rotate key, yet not being able to figure out how to rotate my treadmill when I placed it. All that being said, I'm truly excited to see where this game goes in early access. It's sure to be a time where the game could grow and develop further and show off its great potential. I hope the developers will take all my criticisms constructively and with a grain of salt, because I very much appreciate the special blend of genres this game represents. It's right up my alley and I'm glad somebody's making it happen. Starground released on Steam Early Access on August 19th for $9.99, so you can pick it up today and give it a try. My name's Andy Glover and you can check out some of my other videos about video games right here on YouTube.